Hey guys, it's Rufus. I played competitive Siege for over a year. Up until recently, I quit because I'm currently focusing on moving out and have decided to just focus on content entirely. And while I do feel like I burnt myself out playing competitively, I had a lot of fun while I played and I made a lot of memories doing so. The hardest part of competitive for me was communicating with 4 random people who may or may not have the same motivations and ideas as you. And because of this, there are always going to be problems in your team. But the best teams are the ones who can work through these problems, and these can be issues with disagreements, people aren't getting along, or any other number of simple nuances that really shouldn't be a problem in the first place. If you can work through a problem with a team, you will not only create a stronger bond as a group, but you will show that you're capable of working through any other problems the team could encounter. And don't worry, I'll elaborate on how to deal with some of the common problems with teams. First, if the team doesn't entirely agree on a single goal, then they cannot perform as a team. Usually when teams don't see clearly on a goal, it is because of poor communication. There might have been no planning beforehand, and therefore nobody knows what the goal is. Most commonly though, a divide is caused by 2 things. Somebody may have explained their position poorly, and so even if one party believes they are correct, they may not have effectively convinced the other party. This is something I used to have a lot of trouble with. I didn't always communicate my ideas effectively, and I used to stutter a lot, and I would have difficulty explaining complex ideas on the spot. So when you're trying to explain like a strat or something, stuttering and not being able to explain your idea effectively is obviously not going to work out, and your teammates aren't going to freaking believe that your idea is good if you can't explain it well. But because of this, my teammates would not always agree with certain ideas I had, even if I knew that they would work out. So in short, I just got better at giving pitches and selling myself. Another common problem is when people simply just don't get along. For me, I've had a lot of teammates that didn't get along, and when I was newer to a competitive, the answer was usually that one person would get kicked. However, I never really liked that way of dealing with things. In order for a team to stay together, they really need to work through their issues, and so I would always try and work with my teammates and communicate openly with them. It didn't always work though. Sometimes people were able to improve themselves and work through their issues, but if they don't want to improve, then they won't. And that is when you would have to kick someone. Somebody who is so immature that they cannot communicate and work through a simple problem is not somebody that you want on your team. Your teammates have to want to fix their issues, as there is only so much you can do to change someone else's behavior. The next common problem is when somebody has an ego. And when somebody has an ego, all I can really say is to disregard pretty much everything they say. If somebody believes that they are always right and that they are the best player on the team, it is going to frustrate everybody. Nobody wants to be around that, and nobody wants to work with someone like that. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing that you can do to work with someone like that. Toxicity is also a common problem. I myself have no tolerance for toxicity. If I play with you and you're being an ass, I'm not going to play with you again. I don't really care how good you are because I don't want to chalk my mental state by listening to complaining and insults all day. I suggest you follow that advice since it'll save you a lot of headaches. The final common problem is bad attitude, and by a bad attitude, I mostly mean negativity. If you have somebody on your team that is negative, the negativity will infect your entire team, and you will not be able to perform nearly as well. Your communication will be worse, the team will be quieter, and people are going to be less inclined to speak. Camaraderie is an essential aspect to any team. If a team does not believe that they are capable of being successful, then they will never succeed. It is that simple. You must first believe you can do something before you do it. Now, if somebody is being negative, there's only so much you can do. Since mentality is infectious, I try to stay positive at all times, and therefore my teammates will be more likely to be positive. If somebody continues to be negative and it begins to affect your team, then you will likely have to speak with them. At that point, it is their choice on whether or not they want to change their habits. However, if they continue being negative, you may need to kick the player, because the negativity will inhibit their performance and potential of the entire team, and this is why it's important to stay positive no matter what. Even when things are looking bad, there is always an upside. If you can train yourself to always find that upside, then people will not only enjoy playing with you more, but you will perform better. Overall, I suggest just staying away from toxicity and people with egos. You want to find nice people who have the same motivations and goals as you. Otherwise, you're going to burn yourself out trying to reason with someone that can't be reasoned with. Another thing I learned is how to lead. I learned to say things that were uncomfortable and caused confrontation. On every team, I was the person to tell someone that they were kicked from a team, the person to tell a tryout that they didn't make the team. I also had to tell players that their performance is lackluster, their attitude is poor, or that they need to solve X, Y, or Z. But the point is that I was always the guy to tell people things they didn't want to hear. It was hard sometimes, but I got used to it, and overall the benefit was far greater than the small amount of social discomfort it may have caused. Because when I communicated with my teammates and helped them work through anything, they came out as better players in the end. I remember having a teammate that I really liked, and I had to tell him that he was lagging behind in fragging. I told him that if he didn't pick it up within the next couple of weeks, then we would have to kick him. I gave him some advice and told him to play some more ranked, and I even played ranked with him. But when I told him to pick it up, he really started grinding more because he didn't want to lose his spot. He got better, and we ended up keeping him on the team because he was able to carry his weight. And this story right here is a perfect example as to why you communicate with teammates and work with them before you kick them. Because after that, we were a much stronger team. With that team, we were able to work through several problems, and we were at one point a very strong team in the T3 scene. And it's because of our ability to work together that we were able to do so well. But most of what I learned was working with people, and that's not only made me a better Siege player, but a better leader and communicator. Now, if you want to follow my Twitter, Discord server, or Patreon, link will be in the description below, but that's all to say for this video, and if you learned something, give the video a like, and if you want to see more content like this, then subscribe. Toodles!